Uh, as we have three speakers today for three topics of BCBR course, our first lecture is by Dr. Dhiren Amin sir. Sir is a senior assistant professor of Department of Community Medicine at GMC Bhavnagar, and sir is very much experienced in the field. As we all know, the people from community medicine, the research is too good. So let us have some words from Dr. Dhiren Amin sir, and I request you all to keep your mic muted throughout. In between, if you have any query, you can put that into chat box. And with this, let me give the seat to Amin sir.
Thank you, Dr. Jayesh. A very good afternoon to all of you. Today I am going to take a quick revision, or it would say rather than rapid fire round, because I have been given three topics in this BCBR revision class. And as you know that in research methodology workshop, we take it in a day or half. So again, I would like to thank you, DMER, SHRC Gujarat and IAPSM. Thank you for providing me this platform. So my topic is the study plan and project management. So first of all, in everything in real life also, planning is better planning is good planning is for better outcome. So failing to prepare or failing to prepare is almost you are preparing to fail. So what we would learn in this this session is the principle of project management means three things you have to remember: the time frame, or what are the deliverables, budget allocation, and the quality standards. So to the end result should be to provide direction for future implications, basically for the better tomorrow. So what are these principles of project management? So three things you have to remember, that is the resource allocation and management, time management, and efficient and expedient progress to achieve the goal. Suppose your resource allocation is not good, so at the end of the study you will not get good results. Like that, the time management. Time management is also very important for monitoring and supervision. Your progress is good or in the direction what you want is there or not. And efficient and expedient progress is reaching the goal with the best possible quality standards. So you have to maintain the quality standards also. There are certain ad hoc approaches to conducting a research. Suppose you are the JR and first year resident, you have some ad hoc approaches. You are confused with the beginning of the study. So what are these confusions? I want to do a study, but I am not clear about the objectives. I have prepared a questionnaires, but I am not clear about the exact information I need. And I will collect data, but I am not clear how will I use that. So if you are not, if you are confused with this status, so what will happen? So disastrous end result will be, I have data, but they are difficult to analyze. So you have analyzed the data, but finding it difficult to interpret. And if your interpretation is not good, then it will be difficult for policymakers to run a program. So ad hoc approaches always lead to the disastrous end result. And this is one of your MCQ also. So what are the disastrous end result of the ad hoc approaches? This slide shows the research cycle. Okay, every research starts with the identifying the data needs. Then you have to spell out the research questions. I think in previous 2 days, this has been covered. The research question, I think Dr. Atul Trivedi has taught this research question. What are these finer criteria and all these things? After spelling out the research question, you have to formulate the study objectives. So your study objectives should be SMART. And then planning the analysis, then preparing the data collection instrument, then collecting data, analyzing data, drawing conclusion, formulating recommendations, and involving the programs. So this is the research cycle. Okay. Again, it is a question of MCQ. Okay, in MCQ there are certain sequences is asked. So what are the correct sequence of this research cycle? And this analysis plan. So this six components, the formulating, starting from the formulating the objectives, planning the analysis, preparing the data collection, to the drawing conclusions. These are the analysis plan. Sorry, the connection has been lost. We'll try to reconnect it. Hello, hello.
Done? Start channel. Done. I think my slides are visible now. So it's a road. Formulate appropriate objectives for the study. Choose the right design to determine key indicators. Identify parameters needed for the key indicators and prepare the analysis outline and estimate the sample size. I think all these topics has been taught to you in previous 2 days. So I'm not going in detail of this, but framing the study objectives is critical. So regarding objectives, again, it has been taught to you in previous 2 days. Objectives should be fewer are the better, one or two only, the primary and secondary. So it may be asked in your MCQs like that, the fewer objectives, primary and secondary objectives, and it should be clearly phrased out. So it depends on your study. what is the your study design is there. Suppose you want to test the hypothesis, then use the determine whether a contaminated well cause an outbreak or not. Determine whether there is association between smoking and lung cancer or not, like that. And if you are measuring the quantitative, if you choose the cross section study, then estimate the prevalence of diabetes, like that. So what are the choice of study designs? It depends on the nature of objectives. Suppose your disease you want to study is in acute in nature, then you have to select the cohort study. Suppose you are measuring the episodes of diarrhea or episodes of pneumonia in the recent and in a time period, then you have to measure the incidence of that particular episodes. So you have to select the cohort study. Suppose you want to study of a chronic conditions, then you have to measure the prevalence of that particular conditions, and you have to select the cross sectional studies. Again, the exposure is disease are frequent or rare. So it depends on these two things also. So if the disease are frequent, then again you have to select the cohort study or cross sectional study, because rare diseases are not suitable for the cohort type of study. And if you are studying the rare diseases, then you have to select the case control study. These are certain parameters like you will measure with the help of this particular study. So incidence you will measure with the help of cohort study, prevalence you will measure with the cross section study, and odds ratio with the case control study. Now, what are the identifications of information needed to calculate the indicator? Yesterday, I think Dr. Hitesh has taken this variables. What are the variables? You have to measure the rates, ratios, proportion of these quantitative variables for any epidemiological study. So for this, you need to some numerators and denominators. So you have to identify this well before planning the study. There are certain covariates also. These are the potential risk factors and potential confounders. I think confounders are well taught by Dr. Kalpita yesterday. Uh, yes, what are the these confounders? Confounders again they affect the exposure as well as outcome of the study results and even process also. So, what are the principles to be followed while collecting the information? You should use the validated or standardized methods or criteria. Uh, so you should use the variables that will best reflect the information elements and decide the accurate way of collecting information. What tools you are using? You are doing it by the observations. You are taking it by interviews or laboratory methods. So here one example is given. The outcome measurement for iodine deficiency. There are three methods which you can, with the help of which you can measure the elements. Suppose you want to measure the chronic iodine deficiency, so you have to look for the goiter, and that can be done by the physical examination only. Suppose you are going to the laboratory investigation, you want to measure the urine iodine excretion, then you have to go for the laboratory urinal examination. That will measure the current exposure to the iodine. And suppose you want to correlate this with the use of iodized salt, then you have to go to the community and testing the household salt for iodine. That for that you need the field spot test. So this is the example of what elements and what elements you are going to do with the which data collection methods. So these are the covariates in iodine deficiency. These are the potential risk factors: income, community, caste, and education that will affect exposure also. And these are the potential confounding factors like age, sex, and residence that will affect both the exposure as well outcome in your study. So having covariates or having potential confounder factors in your study, they are not that much of bad. But uh, if you have to look for that the proper management of these confounders while planning your study. With the statistical help or with the help of statistician, you can uh, overcome these the confounder factors. What are the advantages of making an analysis plan? So making a plan helps to focus on the objectives of the study. You can start by preparing dummy tables. Yes, dummy tables are very much important. If you know your dummy tables of your study, then you can very well plan your objectives and your methods and your data collecting tools. It also helps to avoid comparison for which the study has not been designed. Then for that you have to make sure that the only data that can be analyzed is collected. So for that you have to take the help of statisticians. It will save your time during the quick publication, dissemination, and the policy feedback. Sample size. I think Dr. Parag has well taken this sample size session, so I will not go in detail of the sample size. But nowadays there are many online softwares are available with the help of which you can calculate your sample size for your study. It depends on your study, whether you are using study or case control. This session is the what are the common reasons for study failures. These four options are there. One badly defined question and objective. So your research question is badly, your objectives are badly, your outcomes might not be good. And this is the one most common reason for the failures. Unrealistic time scales, too short or too long. Is the ground realities. And if your study period is too long, then your data collector or your investigator might lose the interest from the study. Even your funding agency will tell you about this the longer period. Third one is the inappropriate and incompetent staff, the lack of direction, motivation, and training. Suppose your staff or data collector is incompetent, there is uh, no good quality of data. And the fourth one is the uh, or failure to consideration and carry out mid-course corrections. So even monitoring and supervision is also needed for the study success. So again, the one MCQ is asked for this common reasons for study failures. What are the common study? What are the common reasons for study failures? You have been given four options, and you have to. So these are certain attention points in study project or management. So human resource management, you need to do the human resource management very well. Communication among the data collectors, study participants, investigators, statisticians, all this. Time management, of course, time management is well important. Then the financial management, quality management, data management, teamwork and coordination, monitoring and progress of the target. So these are certain attention points for study or project management. So planning a project or management of this project is the important session for any kind of study. Okay, so that's it for the this session. Again, second session is given to me. Uh, I'm going to that second session also. Okay, all set with the presentation. This my second topic is designing data collection tools. I hope I am audible and my slides are visible. So what information collected with the help of this data collection tools for any study? We collect the facts, we assess the knowledge, and we assess the judgments. So for facts, individual characteristics are there like age, height, and clinical history. Uh, from the environment section, if how all things, and behavior practices like alcohol use, drug prescriptions, and this. So to assess the knowledge, so risk factors regarding any exposure or any disease like mosquito breeding place, mosquito breeding, unsafe sex practices, and for healthy lifestyles like diet and exercise. So for qualitative type of studies, judgments are also important. So in judgment, we take the opinions and we check the attitudes of the study participants. So it will help us to know the quality of health services and like this practices, good practices or bad practices like wearing seat belts and open defecations. So these are certain different tools to collect the data. We have three types of data collection tools. One is the abstract form, second is the structured observation guide, and third one is the questionnaires. So in abstract forms, we review the records from the personal records, clinical records, and surveillance records and registers. So this is one form in which we get the data. Actually, we get it from the secondary type of data, and we put it or we fill it in our format only. So this is the abstraction form. The second one is the structured observation guide, in which we use in we check text and figures from the any health facility, like evaluation of any health services or any health program or any healthcare facility. We use this type of checklist to collect the data. And third one and most important one is the questionnaire. So questionnaire are of two types. One is the interviewer administered, and the second one is the self-administered. So interview we can take face to face with the help of telephone, and computer assisted interview are also taken. Self-administered ones are the paper-based and the computer-assisted one. Uh, so now, what are the key elements of data collection tools? Thus, you have to remember this key elements because again, it's an MCQ. So clarity, balance, length, comprehensive, constraints, utility, order, and concepts. I will not go in detail of each elements because it will take more time. But you have to remember this the elements. Again, MCQ. These are the four key elements of data collection tools. One will be given wrong. So you have to select the options or all of the above option is also there. So what are the four components of data collection tool? So first component of data collection is the introduction and conclusion. So in introduction part, so whenever you prepare a questionnaire or abstract form or the checklist, first part is the introduction. So in introduction you have to write your objectives, your elements of the informed consent, and at the end you have to conclude it with the thanks to the study participants. There are certain identifiers also. So after this introduction part or consent part, you need to keep some certain identifiers like name and address of the study participants. Collect and keep apart. Suppose you are studying a sensible issues or studies of sensible issues, you have to collect this information in a separate paper also. Third one is the coded ID numbers. That could be the composite one in which you can include the state, your place, residence like urban and rural, gender. So it would be the composite. And for this type of coded ID numbers, you can take help of the statistician also while planning the study. Third component is the instruction for data collectors. So you have to give some instructions or you have to give some explanation with the each question. Certain instructions like certain prompts you can give. In certain questions, you can keep the skip patterns and you can use different fonts also. So to separate the sections or to keep the space between these two questions. The fourth one is the body of the instrument. Yes, again, this is the main part of your questionnaire or your abstract form. So it could be the open items, it could be the closed items and semi-open items. Now we will see each one by one. What is the open items, what is closed items, and what are the semi-open items. So what are these open questions? So in the open questions, answers are not suggested. Respondents is free to give any answer. Okay, respondents must generate an answer. So what are the advantages of these open questions? It stimulates your memory. It gives freedoms to the responses. And it can be useful to generate closed responses later. Suppose with the help of this open questions, you have enough options of the answers. So you can convert it into the closed questions. Here one example is given that what diseases can you acquire from the tobacco? And what places did you eat at in the week preceding the diseases? Okay, Again, sir, there is one disadvantage is that it is difficult to code and analyze. Now, open questions with close-ended answers. So you can keep certain options. No option of answer is suggested even, but you can keep the options. So, however, among the answers, it will mention the interviewer will tick those spontaneously specified. You can tick the proper options given by the respondent. It is expressed as an open question and it is analyzed as a closed-end question. So here example is given. What are the practices that may increase your risk to get a heart attack? So here four options are given. Yes, four options are given means it is the closed questions. Okay. The difference between this closed and answers and this okay, I will tell you detail in the semi-closed answers. The third one is the so closed questions are of two types, that is the dichotomous options and the multiple options. The third option is also given, that is the quantitative answers. But in dichotomous options, you are given only two options, yes or no, gender like male and female, or tall or short like that only. So you have to take only one. So advantages are of this dichotomous options, it forces a clear position and it may be useful for the key important or well-framed issues. So here example is given. Did you eat at restaurant X between 28 February? So the answer would be yes or no only. So there are no other options. Have you ever consumed tobacco products? Okay, yes or no. So it is inconvenient because it oversimplifies the issues. Now closed questions with the multiple options. Here multiple options are given. One or multiple answer are acceptable. Respondent can give you the multiple answers also. An advantage of this is the larger choice of answer options. Like the where do you go to seek treatment for fever? The government hospital, private clinic, pharmacy, traditional healer, or like that. So these are the closed questions with the multiple options. And third one is the closed questions with the quantitative answers only. So your respondents need to give some values. The respondents must provide a quantified answers, like how many times did you visit the clinic in the last 12 months. So he has to respond with the one figure only. Later on you can make it in a uh, quantitative analysis also. You can count it in averages or the range. So advantage of this type of questions, it allows creation of continuous variables where it is inconvenient, so it may require validation. Some quantified answers might be limited in the way they can be handled as continuous. So for this type of questions, the validation is must. What are the semi-open questions? So there are suggested answers. There is possibility to create another answer. Suppose the one answer of one of your question is yes, then specify it. So this is semi-open questions. Here one example is given, that it, did your child have complication following measles? Here the common complications are given: the pneumonia, diarrhea, and eye problems. But one of the complication is unfamiliar and uncommon. Then you have to specify that if it is responded by the respondent. So advantage of this semi-open questions, it leaves the door open to unplanned answers and it is difficult to analyze. So for coding it is difficult. So how to formulate the questions? There are certain ground rules or general rules for formulating the questions. So these are certain ground rules or general rules in the coming two slides. So write short and precise question. The question should be right and in precise manner. It should be full and complete phrases. Uh, you have to avoid some certain ambiguities. Use simple words of everyday languages. You cannot use the medical terminology or the words or language which is not used commonly. Avoid negative and double negatives here. Suppose in this question, do you sometimes care for patients without washing hands? Here double negative is that is sometimes care and the without washing hands. Instead of this you can ask, do you systematically wash hands before caring for each patient? This is the right manner to formulate the question. Ask only one question at the time. So it happens sometimes that we ask two questions in a single phrases. Did you refuse treatment because you feared side effects? The respondent may be confused. So instead of that, you can ask, did you refuse treatment? Then after you ask, if yes, was the because of feared side effects? Like that. You have to be specific. Are you aware of the modes of transmission of HIV? Because there are many modes of transmission of HIV and your respondent may be confused. So among these practices, can you tell me those that could expose you to HIV? That will make some sense. Use neutral tone to avoid influence. Have you been promiscuous in the last 6 months? You have to avoid some negative connotations. Here, the promiscuous is the negative connotation. So instead of that, you can ask how many partners have you had in the last 6 months. So you have to use neutral tone to avoid influence. Sorting the order of questions. Again, MCQ, one of your MCQ is from simple to complicated, from general to specific, from casual to intimate. In one of your options of your MCQ, it may be written like that from intimate to casual. So you have to find out the correct options from that only. So your sorting of the order should be like this only: from simple to complicated, from general to specific, from casual to intimate. You have to group certain questions which are related to the same topic. You have to identify the questions at the beginning or at the end. Identification questions means name, age, you are from which area, like that. You can keep this type of questions at the beginning or at the end of your questionnaire. Uh, if questions are related some sequence, if they are from some sequence from or events, you have to be chronological. You have to put this type of questions in the chronological orders. You can introduce some simple questions as a break of the questionnaire, which is complex ones. If you want to ask some complex questions, you need to break in some simple questions too. And you can triangulate some multiple questions. You can triangulate your answer with the multiple questions on the same topic if the subject is important. Okay. Again, so triangulation of data or triangulation of answer of these questions is important. So these are the sorting of the order of questions. So how to lay out the data collection tool? You can split the sections, you can space out the questions, you can use large fonts for some sections, you can align answers or codes on the right hand side. It should be neat and clean. Your questionnaire should be neat and clean. You can keep your questions on the left aligned, and you can keep your answers on the right hand side. Don't forget to number all the questions. It is must. You have to number all the questions. Do not split questions across the pages. If your questions are splitted one, then you have to keep on the same page. You can use a vertical format for close-ended responses. For this standardized coding and using auto coding procedures, you have to take the help of statistician, because if you take help of statistician before planning, it will help you in analysis part. So how to finalize the data collection tool? Before finalizing the data collection tool, you have to do three things. You have to check the instruments against the objectives, you have to review your instruments, and you have to check the language of the instruments. So how will you check these instruments against the objectives? You have to suppress the unnecessary questions. You can add some extra questions or missing questions while checking the uh, data collection tool. You have to review the instrument. How will you review that? You can discuss it with your colleagues, you can discuss it with some experts, you can discuss it with the statisticians, your field workers who are your data collectors, who are your supervisors, who are your monitors. You can review or you can discuss this data collection tool with your team. Again, data entry operators, you you can take help of this data entry operators, because the coding and auto coding is important while data analyzing. The language of the instrument. Uh, what we do, we make this questionnaire in the English because English is a common language. But the collection, geographical area of your data collection is different. So in wherever you want to do study, you have to translate your question in that particular local language or that language of that particular area. So suppose you are collecting your data in Gujarat or in Maharashtra, so you have to translate it into Gujarati or Marathi. Uh, you can translate it in Hindi also. Uh, Before that, you can give your this questionnaire to certain people or to some persons who can translate back into the English. So you will have some idea of, or you can you can have some idea regarding the correction of your mistakes. Okay, so these are the three things you have to do before finalizing your data collection: the checking the instrument, reviewing the instruments, and language of the instruments you have to check. Then comes the pilot testing. Pilot testing of the data collection. Pilot, this is not about the pilot study, but this is about the pilot testing of your data collection tool. How you can do this pilot testing of data collection tool? So you can check the instrument is clear, understandable, or acceptable. If you are collecting the data with the help of questionnaire, you can check your questionnaire. If you are measuring something, if you are measuring blood pressure or you are estimating the hemoglobin, then you have to check the instrument and check the instrument. You have to standardize or calibrate the instruments also. Check the flow and skip pattern in your question, in your form. You can check pertinence of the coding. You can estimate the time needed to ask all the questions. uh, you can do this with the few volunteers also. You can do it at your site, you can do at the study site, or the similar site you can choose. So person similar to the study problem, the things you have to remember is only that the persons who are not to be included in the study, wherever you have pilot testing, that samples or that study participants you cannot include in the study. So this you have to remember. Uh, so at the end, designing the health research tools, you have to decide how to measure the concepts. You have to relate concept to study design and objectives. You have to match the scale for the measures chosen to the analysis plan. Make sure reliability and validity of the measures. Choose most appropriate methods of the data collection. Then tailor the measures to the study participants. And lastly, decide how best to ask the actual questions. So that's it for this session. Now, the third session. So third session is of the principles of these principles. Uh, so you have to ensure your data quality. So how will you ensure this data quality? Data quality is ensured by reliability and the accuracy. I think both of these things are what the study on. I think Dr. Kalpita has taught you very well, what is reliability and what is accuracy. But reliability is also known as the reproducibility, repeatability, and precision. It means that some other investigators or some other researchers do these things, the similar result, they should get similar results. That is the reproducibility or the reliability. And what is accuracy? Accuracy is the ability of a measurement to be correct on the average. So you should measure actual what you want to measure. Okay. So this slide shows what is reliability and accuracy. So the first part, the reliable and accurate, this is the ideal condition. And the worst condition is not reliable and not accurate. You cannot use that things in your research or in your study. Two common things which are generally occurring in the study, that is the uh, reliable but not accurate and not reliable but accurate. So there are 6 steps in the data collection. So what are these 6 steps? So first step is the draft question by question or Q by Q guide. Second is the train staff members who will collect your data. Third one is the initiate data collection and ensure quality. The fourth one, review collected data for quality and completeness. Fifth one is the debrief to troubleshoot difficulties, and sixth one is the validate. We will see one by one what are these 6 steps and how they are used. So how to draft Q by Q guide. So what is this Q by Q guide? It is nothing but the short document or the field guide for your data collectors. So in which the short explanation is given with their question, how to ask this question, or before asking the question, what you have to do. So it is a short document to understood as a guide for field workers only. So you have to consider each question number by number. So provide guidance as to how the data should be collected. So used as a roadmap for good data collection, that you have to draft it initially, but you can revise it as the issues are arise and addressed. So you can do with your site only. When you can call the meeting of your data collectors. You can discuss your questionnaire. You can discuss your abstract form with your data collectors, with your supervisors, with your monitors and investigators also. Uh, So example Q by Q guide. What are these examples? How this Q by Q guide helps? Suppose one question is regarding the housing criteria. So you have to explain or you have to instruct your data collector. First, you observe the house, whether it is made up of mud or whether it is made up of bricks and cements. So in questions, there are two options: kacha house or pakka house. So for that, your data collector should observe the house, and if he finds the house is made up of mud, then he has to take the kacha house. If he finds the house made up of bricks, then he has to take the pakka house. Like, another question is regarding the household income or family income. It might be possible that there are more than one person who are earning in the family. So for total household income, your data collector should identify all the persons with financial income in the households. He has to estimate each source of income, and then sum up and total income should be written in the questionnaire form. So this is the Q by Q guide. Second one is train staff who will collect the data. Before that, you have to select good experienced investigators. The data collector should be enough literate. It depends on your type of your study, whether you are collecting your data in the field or you are collecting in data in the hospital setup. Suppose you are doing your study in the hospital setup, then you should have your data collector who have the knowledge of medical terminology or knowledge regarding the medical problems. It presents study and its objectives. You can present the study objectives or slide presentation in your department or your in setup also. First, you distribute the question Q by Q guide to the data collectors. Walk. You can walk through the people by Q by Q. You can list tasks to be conducted, answer questions. You can simulate the interviews. Suppose one of your fellow will become the respondent and one of your fellow will be the data collector. So data collector will ask the questions, your stimulator or one fellow will give the answer. So you can have some idea regarding the problems in asking the questions. So you can simulate these interviews within the team also, within your department fellows also. Then you can initiate data collection and ensure quality. So before going to actual field, you can do pilot on-site interviews. You can choose similar sites and take interviews under the supervision. You can note issues that may come up and you can resolve them as a group. So continue until the procedure is clear to everyone. Uh, this will help you in the collecting the data very smoothly. Then plan data collection process with a supervisor and investigator. That will ensure study forms with the supervision of your supervisor. Be available to the answer whether any questions or any query arises. As a principal investigator, you have to face that queries and you have to answer the questions. Do on-site visits. You can take your data collectors to the site and you can make them visit the actual sites. And do not press for quick completion. If you are pressing for time frame, then the quality of data will be hampered. So review collected data for quality and completeness. At 3 point, you can review your collected data at the data collector site, at the supervision site, and the principal investigator site. So each team checks the data collection instrument before the respondent leaves. That is to the up to the your data collector. Okay, who is your data collector? If the respondent leaves, then that might be possibility of missing some data. So before respondent leaves, you have to check your entire form whether there is any missing data or not. Then the duty of supervisor comes. Supervisor checks the instrument before leaving the location. If you leave the place where you have collected the data, supervisor has to check all the instruments whether they are completely filled or not. And all take responsibility for the instruments. You have to, whether supervisor or data collector, they have to write their name and signature. And after coming to the site or your place, principal investigator checks instruments as they come. So for that, the periodical review is necessary. So periodical review will help for the accuracy of the data or the quality of the data. Checks to conduct. What you have to check in the data. First, the completeness, whether your data is complete or not, whether readability is the good, whatever has been written by the data collectors is readable or not. And third one is the consistency. You have to check the consistency with the answers which make sense or not. The fifth one is debrief to troubleshoot difficulties. If you find some difficulties during the collection of data during in the field, then you have to call these regular meetings in your department. You can specify some time, whether evening or morning. You can facilitate a discussion about the issues identified. Whatever the issues identified during the data collection, you can discuss them, you can clarify them, and you can correct on site or as well as you can correct it on the site where you work. So make note of decision on the Q by Q if it is needed. And the most important one is the validate. How you validate your data. So for validation of the data, you have to select subset of your study population. So you can select a number of study participants. It depends on your sample size. If it is a large samples, you can take the 10 of that sample. Small, then you can take the 5% of 5% of your sample size. You have to take subsample of your study participants. What you have to do? You have to conduct a second interview. Go to them, uh, interview them again, and compare the results with the data which are filled the previous one. Whether any discrepancy is find out, then you have to debrief. Whether it is related to one person, then you can call or you can tell him individually. But if it is related to the entire team, then you can discuss with the whole team. So validation for data collection is very much important. So what is the take home message? So you have to remember these three things. You have to understand the concept of data quality, that you can measure by the reliability and the accuracy of the data. So two things you have to keep in your mind, that is the reliability of data and the accuracy of your data. Second one is the good training offsite as well as on-site essential. You have to train your data collectors well in advance. So during planning, you can do this. If your data collector is well trained, then that will shorten your problems. Third one is the supportive supervision and teamwork are key to good quality data collection. Again, the supportive supervision is must, even as well as monitoring of the data collection. If your supervisor are good enough and supportive, uh, they can make comfortable in your field as well as on site. So that's it for the today. So thank you very much.
So thank you, Dr. Dhiren Amin sir. Once again, PSM is a subject that we look upon whenever we want to do some research. But definitely BCBR course and these short lectures will help you build some basics. Thank you, sir, once again. Our next esteemed speaker is Dr. Vikas Doshi, sir. Sir is associate professor and he's a teacher of statistics. I still remember I am from this college only. So in our UG days, sir used to teach us statistics in PSM, and sir has experience of 20 years. Sir is currently at GMC Baroda, and sir will take the topic of data management and overview of data analysis. Because after collecting the data, if you want to get out with good results, the management analysis, both portions are very much required. So over to you, Vikas sir. Let us have your words.
Thank you very much. Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible, sir.
Okay.
Sir, can you share the screen? PPT. Okay, sir. It's visible.
Yeah, just
You
I will
can
share it.
proceed. Yes, sir. You can proceed
Is
with
it
it.
visible?
Both to you, sir. Yes, sir. Visible and audible both, sir. Yes, sir. You
Okay,
can
thank you very
proceed,
much.
sir.
Yeah, thank you, DMR, SHRC, and host for giving me this opportunity. Uh, First, we go for data management, followed by data analysis. Before we go for management or analysis of data, you should know what is data. Basically, there is misconception that data is information. Data is nothing but observation that you collect from the source. Source may be primary, may be secondary. So how you collect your data is important, and depending on that, you can call it primary data or secondary data. Now, when we are looking for managing this data collection, how to collect data, this discussion is already done. So I'm not going in that much detail. So we assume that we have data collection. We have data in soft copy. So basic steps that data management should have, it start with defining variable. Variable means one kind of question, one kind of thing that you want to observe according to your objective. Different type of variable, and that will be discussed in our data analysis part. The second thing, create database and dictionary. So after you collect your data, you have to do this kind of database and data dictionary creation. The third one is data entry. After data entry, sometimes you might have some data entry mistakes that you have to correct. We call it data cleaning. Creating data set for analysis. When you look for data entry, it is only just data entry for your master chart, or you call it data sheet. But when you go for data analysis, it should be clean. There should not be any error. Then and then you can take it to for data analysis in any software. And at the end, it is more important data backup and archive data sets, because after sometimes if you want to recollect data, your PC may have some virus issue or corrupted, you may lose your data, which is more important for you people. So before you go for any data analysis or any other thing, first you have to have backup and archive time. Now we go for elements. What are the key elements for data management? The first one is data structure and entry of data. In data structure, basically what you want in data, how your data look like in your data set. So there are some records, variable name, unique ID, or we call it identifier. These are the basic things that should be in your data sheet. And obviously with this, we are looking for data entry. When you are looking for data entry, before you start data entry, you should know whether you are looking for entering a number or you are going to enter some alphabets. Say for example, if you are looking for entering some gender of 10 patients, male, female, something. So when you are looking for data entries, there are some typo mistake, or when you export your data to some statistical software, all softwares are case sensitive. So to overcome this kind of difficulty of case sensitivity of software, we need to go for data coding. So before you are looking for data entry, data coding work would be done. Now for data
Excuse
coding,
me, sir.
we have, yeah.
Sir, can you share the whole screen from slides
Uh,
below?
I'm going one by one.
Okay,
It
okay,
is
sir.
PPT.
Okay, okay, sir.
Okay. So now we
Change
are
on the
looking for,
display.
is it visible? No?
So only the first slide is visible currently, sir. First slide. Okay, now, okay, sir. Now it is visible. Okay, sir. Now it is moving.
Okay. Basically, I am looking for that PowerPoint presentation, so that it might have some disturbance
Yes,
in
sir.
between.
Yes, sir.
No
Now
issue.
it is visible. Okay, okay, sir. Continue, sir. Continue.
So basically, we are discussing key elements. The first one is data structure and data entry. Second one is individual and aggregated database. Individual database means you have database for each and every subject, whereas aggregated means now you are grouping some data for cases, some data for control, male and female data you are segregating, disease or severity wise you are segregating your data. That we call aggregated database. And another database, we call it mother and daughter, or in general we call it parent and child database. In mother or parent database, we have whole record having a unique ID. We call it identifier, unique ID. Now some data which is related to that, which is in our another database. Now I want to correlate one database with other database. That would be done by that unique identifier or unique ID. So wherever you have unique ID, that we call mother or parent database, this will be connected with other database. We call it daughter or child database. When we are looking for variable, in any software, when you are looking for analysis, you can't say variable 1, variable 2, variable 3. You should have give a particular name by which you can identify that variable and which is already in your questionnaire also. So now this variable name should be clearly defined. Second, it should be as per your data collection tool. It should be short and sweet, without space, but it is more consistent and unique. You can't use a same variable name for two different variables, right? Now we're coming for data types, variable types. Basically, your variable or data are broadly divided into parts, qualitative and quantitative. In qualitative, we have nominal or categorical data and ordinal data. Though your data is non-numeric, that's why we call it qualitative. Though your data is non-numeric, you are able to order that data in increasing or decreasing format. Say for example, severity of disease, mild, moderate, severe, socioeconomic class 1, 2, 3. So this kind of data which are observed or measured in terms of some alphabets, that is non-numeric format, though they are able to order, we call it ordinal data, and remaining we call nominal data. In nominal data, you can categorize it like gender, male, female, age group. So this kind of data are qualitative data having categorical or ordinal format. Data observation that we can measure in quantity. We can measure it numerically. They are called quantitative data. In quantitative data, if you are able to observe or if you are able to measure your data in decimal or fraction, we call it continuous. Otherwise, we call it discrete. Say for example, age of patient. We can measure age of patient or age of individual in decimal. This many year, this many month, this many days. So 18.3 years like that. So we call age as a continuous. But number of patient in the hospital, number of patient in the ward, number of students in the class, we never have a decimal. Either we have 52 or 53. So we call this kind of data as a discrete data. Now, when we are looking for creating our database, the table give you idea regarding how your database should be. Each row of database gives you a record of one individual, one patient, whereas each column give you a information or observation regarding basically your variables. Now, when you are looking for a column, one column should be for your identifier or unique ID, and remaining would be for your different variables. So this way you can create your database. Your data unique ID or identifier, it should be maintained by computerized index, and it may be alphanumerical or it may be composite numbers. Now, when we are looking for data entry, before you go for data entry, as I said, you are looking for coding of your variable. So that data coding should be done before data entry. It is important element for your data entry format. Now, your coding are having different forms. One we call automatic or universal coding, just like yes and no. One yes, zero no. There are some missing data in our database. So either you keep it blank or you have to give some code to that missing value. If you give the code to the missing value, it is more important and usual process before you go for data analysis. So missing value might be 9, 99, 999, and hence. Similarly, but it depends on what is your upper and lower observation, that is maximum and minimum value of that variable. Say for example, you are looking for age of patient. You can't give missing value as 9 or 99. Otherwise, it considered as 9-year patient or 99-year patient is there, right? But if you want to show it is a missing value, it should be beyond your range of your variable. And that's why before you go for missing value data coding, first of all, you have to look at your range of data. What is the minimum maximum value? Beyond that, you are going to provide 9999 number. So for age, I can give missing value coding as the 999. That would be appropriate for me. In data entry, some specifications, it should be checked before you are looking for data entry. One, I already told you, the minimum maximum value as a range. Another is legal code. There should not be any pattern in your data. And most important, data copying from preceding or any calculation. It should not be there. So these are the basic things that you have to keep in your mind when you are looking for data entry. And when you are looking for some typo error, that should be clear immediately using any tool. We call it data cleaning process. Database can be created and analyzed. Now we are looking for creating database for analysis purpose. Dataset contains few things: identifier or unique ID, you can say, demographics, outcome variable, and exposures. These are the basic things that you should have in your data. Now, what are the exposures? What are the outcome? That you have to decide as per your objectives. Another thing is data dictionary or variable catalog. This kind of data dictionary, it is useful for future use. Say for example, today you have done some data entry, you have do some coding, but after some time when you recollect data, you may or may not be recollecting what the coding I have done for particular variable. And that's why first of all, you simultaneously, when you are looking for data entry and coding, one another sheet you have to maintain that we call data dictionary or variable catalog. I show you how it is. That variable catalog or data dictionary, it contains variable name, type of variable, what options or label you have provided in that variable, and the code for particular option or label. This kind of data catalog or variable catalog can be useful for your future use. If you want to share your data to any statistician for further analysis, he or she can know what coding you have done. Okay. So for this purpose, data dictionary or variable catalog should be along with your data sheet. Another type of database, we call it individual or normalized data, and another is aggregated. We already discussed this part. Normalized data or individual data, in which each and every individual record is there, whereas in aggregated, they are grouped. Basic structure of data dictionary or variable catalog. Say for example, I have done coding for gender, so this is my variable name. I have gender as a binary variable. Basically it is categorical, but in categorical I have only two options, so I can call it binary, and the two options are male and female, and I code one for male and two for female. So this way your data catalog or dictionary is maintained. And most important part for data management is, after you have data set and data catalog, first of all you have to save it at multiple storage or multiple sources, so that if one instrument is broke down, you can't lose your data that can be collected from some other source. And that's why backup, storage information, and documentation, these are the three things that is more important for data management. You can store your data at multiple sites on online, backup, Google Drive, pen drive, XYZ. Your storage information should be related to your media location and backup information. In data documentation at the end, it contains structure, variables, history, and storage information. In history, basically, you are looking for, first of all, when you create your data, after data creation, how many times and when you have modified that data. That history you have to provide. Now we are looking for analyzing data. In data analysis, we start with recoding stage. Whatever data we have coded before data entry, after data entry, I have clear my data, save it, and export for the analysis. So now before I go for analysis, I have to give instruction to the computer or software. What are my coded data? Especially they are categorical. And what codes I have provided for a particular label. That is called decoding. Previously, I have code 1 for male and 2 for female. Now I have to give instruction to the software in gender column or gender variable. 1 means male, 2 means female. The reverse thing, reverse process that we call recoding. So that is the first stage of data analysis, followed by descriptive and analytical stage. Name it suggests descriptive. It is another word we can use is summary. So you can call it descriptive or summary stage and analytical stage. Third one. In descriptive stage, whatever data you have collected, you describe it in different way, different format, or you summarize it. That's why it is called summarizing. So especially in descriptive stage, you are looking for descriptive statistics. For qualitative data, you are going to obtain frequency table, cross tabulation, or mixture of that cross tabulation that we call complex tables. In other way, instead of tabulation, you can show the same data in form of some graphical presentation, bar diagram, chart, and all these parts. Along with frequency, you are also obtaining percentage or proportion. Proportion is also called relative frequency. Sometimes you are looking for some case control cohort or cross-sectional type analytical study that we call epidemiological study basically, in which you are not obtaining frequency percentage only. Basically, you are looking for some outcome variable as a statistics. So there, if it is cross-sectional study, your outcome would be prevalence or incidence. If it is your case control study, your outcome would be odds ratio. If it is longitudinal cohort study, your outcome variable would be relative risk. If you are looking for non-epidemiological study, that means interventional study, experimental study, or in short, analytical study. In that case, your qualitative data, I already told you frequency percentage and graphical method. If you have quantitative data, that can be described as a mean, standard deviation, median, interquartile range, like that, along with histogram, normal curve, frequency polygon, box plot. These are the basics graphical presentation that you can follow. Also correlation. You can check correlation here instead of comparing something. Now we are looking for the third stage. After having your data presentation or summarizing data in descriptive stage, now you start your analysis. And that's why it is called analytical stage. In analytical stage, first of all, you have to check whether your data follow normal distribution or not. In other way, you can decide whether you are reporting your answer in terms of mean or in terms of median. If you are able to give answer in terms of mean and it is appropriate, then you are looking for parametric test, that is normally assumption. And if you are dealing with median, that means you are not following normality assumption, and that's why you are looking for non-parametric tests. In analytical stage, we have two options. First is estimation, another is inference. And that's why analytical stage having two categories, estimation and hypothesis testing. In estimation, you might have point estimation, you might have interval estimation. Interval estimation is most common, we call it confidence interval, by which you can estimate your particular variable or parameter with some range and confidence. On other side, we are looking for hypothesis testing. In hypothesis testing, either you are looking for comparing two or more than two groups, or you want to correlate, or you want to associate. some variables. So that part comes under analytical study. Sometimes you are looking for correlation. If you find some correlation, the next stage you are looking for some prediction purpose also, that we call regression model. So in hypothesis testing, this kind of answers you can get as an inference. And that's why it is also called inferential statistics. Now there is important thing that we have to look at whenever you want to study the population. The characteristic of this population can be checked by simple frequency percentage or cross tabulation and graphical presentation, so that you can get idea regarding your population. That is important for your normality assumption. These are the basic softwares that we are using for analysis: SPSS, Stata, and R. These are the basic software for in-depth data analysis. Whereas API Info, this software can give you a multiple job. You can create your data collection tool here, that is questionnaire. You can also enter data in this API Info, and you can run some basic analysis. Steps for data analysis. First of all, before you go for data analysis, you should know what are the variables, what are the aims and objectives, what is the type of study you are looking for. Accordingly, your analysis will be decided. So these are the basic steps that you have to follow for data analysis. First, you have to identify which type of study it is, whether it is observational study, descriptive study, analytical study, experimental study. If it is experimental study, it is randomized control, non-randomized control, or it is only interventional study. So what kind of study it is, first of all, you have to decide that. Second, you have to identify a primary and secondary objective, and accordingly your variables. In variable, it might be outcome, exposure, independent, dependent, confounder. This kind of variable you have to identify. Now you have to become familiar with data, so you can understand data. What data you can provide it. First of all, you have to look at the data, how many observations, how many records, how many patients you have provided. For each patient, what are the details you have given. So you have to familiar with that data. Now you have to characterize your study population. Your study population that I have already discussed, basically you have one population from where you collect your data, and there is another population for which you can extrapolate your data, extrapolate your results, or generalize your results. Sometimes both are same, sometimes both are different. After having your study population information, now you have to examine your outcome variable, what you want to prove, what you want to disprove, and what are the exposures related to that if you are looking for some association. Now you start your data analysis, create your basic tables, graphical presentation, and descriptive statistics. After having this rough idea regarding each variable and overall population, now you go further for your data analysis, inferential part. So these are the basic stage you are going to follow. In analytical stage, basically you start with univariate, bivariate, and then multivariate. This is the basic sequence that you can follow for analysis. Your analysis plan depends on type of study and study objective. Now I already discussed cross-sectional cohort and case control study. What are the probable outcome that you can measure? in cross-sectional prevalence or incidence that you can say, or in short percentage form. In cohort study, basically your outcome is acute and it is frequently in condition. So you are looking for cohort study and your outcome would be relative risk, RR. Your outcome is acute, but your outcome or your measurement or your variable is rare event. In that case, instead of cohort, you are looking for case controlled study and your outcome would be in form of observation. In experimental study or interventional study, either it is randomized or non-randomized, you can use t-test, correlation, chi-square, ANOVA, analysis of covariance, multivariate analysis of variance, regression, and etc. So that advanced statistical tests are used for experimental study. Just we discuss in analytical stage, it starts with univariate, that is your descriptive part, where you are dealing with a single variable. Then you proceed for bivariate, where you are stratifying your analysis. Say for example, you are looking for stratifying your data gender wise. So you have to do some analysis for male and same analysis for female separately. Age wise, that means age group wise, severity of disease. Similarly, you are looking for stratified analysis. If you don't want to go for stratification, but if you want to involve more than one variable in your analysis, then you are looking for bivariate or multivariate analysis. So in bivariate analysis, chi-square, where you are associating two variables, independent t-test, where you are comparing two independent groups. Similarly, for same for z-test, one-way ANOVA in which you are comparing more than two groups, and ROC, correlation and regression. In correlation, you are relating two continuous variables. If they are strongly correlated or good correlation provided by that two variables, then further analysis is done for prediction purpose. That is called regression modeling. So simple regression, logistic regression, this kind of analysis now you are starting for data analysis. And one more that we can look for, it is ROC, receivers operating characteristics. This kind of analysis is done to find out cutoff for particular variable and outcome. And at the end, after having this bivariate, now you are looking for multivariate, in which you are dealing with more than two variables simultaneously. So multiple regression, multiple logistic regression, multivariate ANOVA, this kind of analysis further you are looking for. Overall, we start with data. We have to deal with data. So for that, what you are looking for data management first. How you manage your data, how you enter your data, how you give the codes to the data, and how you store that data. After having your data management process, now you confirm with a final data set. We call it master chart or master table. This data set is now exported for data analysis by any software. And in data analysis, the particular steps you have to follow. Start with recoding of data. Go for descriptive statistics, then inferential statistics. In inferential statistics, you start with univariate, then bivariate, and multivariate. At the end of this inferential statistics, you give answer in terms of p-value. If you're looking for hypothesis testing, all hypothesis testing are made for testing only null hypothesis, H0. And that is also for probable rejection. So at the end, if you are manually doing your data analysis, you have calculated value and table value. You compare it and conclude yourself. If you use some software, your final conclusion would be on the basis of p-value. P-value is nothing but the probability of error, type 1 error, alpha. And that's why the cutoff basically that is most commonly accepted is 5%, 0.05. So if your p-value is less than 0.05, we reject H0 with 95% confidence, and we conclude that whatever the difference or correlation you find, it is significant. And if it is more than 0.05, it is not significant. So this way you are looking for your data analysis. I hope I have provided what you want in only 15 minutes only, that's 30 minutes. So promote the research and help to the society. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Vikas, sir. Nice to hear your lecture after so many years. I used to have your lectures in
Thank you
our
very much.
PSM days. So once again, it was an old memory. Thank you once again on behalf of the team. And thank you once again, sir, for your nice talk.
Thank you.
So after
Thank you.
listening to Dr. Vikas Doshi, sir, our next eminent speaker is Dr. Arpita Madam. Madam is Associate Professor in the Pathology Department at GMC Surat with a teaching experience of 30 years. And Madam will talk upon ethical framework for health research. Ethical issue is one of the burning thing about research. So let us hear to Madam. Over to Madam.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, Madam.
Am I audible?
Yes, Madam. Audible.
Am I audible?
Yes, Madam. You are audible.
Okay. Good afternoon. Yeah. So the topic for today's session, my session, is ethical framework for health research. So in this session, we will be talking about the ethical issues in health and biomedical research. Now, it is very important that we know these issues, and then we will know how to protect safety of the participants who are going to be a part of our study. I cannot, you are sharing. I can't go further, is entire screen. Yeah. So any research which involves human participant should follow international standard of ethics. And now the Indian National Standard Guidelines of Ethics are also at par with the international guidelines, and they are developed by ICMR. They are available on the ICMR website, and we are supposed to follow these guidelines. Ethical review, as you all know, is mandatory in all kinds of research, whether all research studies, whether it is a prospective study, whether it is a retrospective study. Now, there's a wrong notion that whenever there is a minimal risk, or when there is no invasion, no intervention, no specimen collection, then ethical review is not important. No, that is not the case. Ethical review is mandatory even in situations which have no risk or minimal risk, or where only questions are being asked, or only where available data is being used. So in all situations, ethical review is mandatory. Now, to improve the practice of ethics, many international documents developed. It started after the World War II with the 1947 Nuremberg Code, which discussed on the rationale and justification of research, the risk-benefit analysis, the voluntary consent concept. Then in 1964, the Helsinki Declaration, which was revised again and again till 2013, discussed about the individual's right to make informed decisions about the vulnerability and welfare of the participants. In 1978-79 came the Belmont Report, which first time described the basic ethics principles, that is autonomy, justice, and beneficence. It emphasized on informed consent, and this was the first time that review by ethics committee issue was also discussed. Then in 1992-93, CIOMS guidelines came, which talked about the adverse drug reactions and principles of pharmacovigilance. Then in 1996 came the principles of good clinical practice. Now then came our Indian standards. That is the ICMR guidelines. The ICMR introduced the ethical guidelines for research on human participants in 2000. Then these guidelines were revised in 2006, and then they were last revised in 2017, and they are available on this website www.icmr.nic.in. And this is a consensus document which states that all institutions in the country which carry out any type of biomedical research which involves human beings should follow these guidelines in letter and spirit, so that the safety and well-being of all individuals can be protected. In addition to these ICMR guidelines 2017, there are several other national guidelines also available. That is the genome policy, genetic research, assisted reproductive technology, stem cell research, and so on. And whenever a person is working on research in these areas, suppose example is working in doing a genetic study, then in addition to the ICMR 2017 guidelines, he has to also follow the genomic research guidelines. Now, we were talking about the principles of ethics. So researchers must follow the ethical principles, which are 4 basic principles. That is respect for autonomy, justice, beneficence, and non-maleficence. Autonomy means a self-rule. Now, this means that a patient has a right to make his own decisions regarding his or her own life. And we must respect the decisions made by persons. We must not interfere with the decisions of competent adults. The adult must be competent to make decisions, and we must respect the decisions. And so the participants in any study should be clearly informed that they have a right to decide whether they want to participate in the study. And even in the middle of the study, if the participant wants to withdraw from the study, the participant must be allowed, because we have to respect the participants' decisions. The second principle is justice. Justice means that we have an obligation to treat all people equally, fairly, and impartially. All individuals must get an equal opportunity to participate in research unless contraindicated, such as pregnancy or some other reasons. So benefit of research must be extended to everybody, irrespective of anything. So no exclusion must be there on the basis of gender, tribe, etc. Everyone must be equally given an opportunity. Then the third principle is beneficence. Beneficence means do good. So we must be fair and correct in our actions and must take positive steps to prevent any harm. But sometimes in our endeavor, to do good, we may place ourselves in conflict with respecting the autonomy, because patient has a right to his own, make his own decisions also. So that conflict must be avoided. Then the fourth principle is non-maleficence, which means first do no harm. We must not harm anyone others. And if at some time in the trial harm cannot be avoided, suppose a new drug is being tried, harm cannot be avoided, we must try to minimize that harm. Now, to ensure that all these ethical principles that we talked about, autonomy, justice, non-maleficence, and beneficence, informed consent is to be taken by the researcher from the participant. So what is this informed consent? Informed consent is a process. So when I say it's a process, it is not a one-time event. It can be an ongoing process also. It can be repeated several times during the research study also if necessary. So this is the process in which, in a very systematic manner, the potential participants are informed about the research study. They are explained in detail about the participant has to made understood the study procedures, the risk, the benefit, and all his concerns and questions must be answered. And then we have to empower that participant to take an informed decision whether he wants to participate in the research study or not. Although group consent, if example, if there is a tribal study going on, it can be desirable, but nothing can replace an individual consent, which is mandatory. So consent, who is eligible for consent? Consent has to be given by all who are above the legal age of 18 years. And there is another terminology which is called as assent. Assent is usually taken when, in case of children who have not reached their legal age and therefore cannot give consent. In those cases, by the child is taken, and in addition, consent of the parent. Now, this is usually in the age of 12 to 18 years. So in this age group, the child assent plus the parent's consent is to be taken. Now, what does this informed consent document include? This document has a header, it has a footer. The header contains the name of the research project, the agency who is going to conduct the research description, risks involved in the study, the benefits, that potential benefits. And these benefits may not be individual, they may be for the community. Then alternatives, that is, even if they don't participate, they will continue to get the services in the same manner. Assurance of confidentiality is given. Compensation in case some harm occurs as a result of the study. Contact information, any additional information if they want, they can get in touch with the contact information person that is given. Then the patient research participant has to voluntarily participate. So he or she has the right to decide to participate and withdraw from the study anytime during the study also. The footer contains the signature of the participant, and if the participant is illiterate, then an impartial witness signature must be there who is not part of the study team. Now, who are the stakeholders in this informed consent process? It is obvious who is informing, taking informed consent, and institutions. The participants who are taking a voluntary decision, informed decision. Then the sponsors, the monitors, the regulators of the research study, because they assess the fairness of the consenting procedure right from beginning of research and continuous monitoring till the study ends. And the sponsors, monitors, and regulators, they have the authority to verify the consent documentation of the research participant. They can see and verify the informed consent document. Now, whom does the informed consent benefit? The participant and the investigator both, because it protects both of them, the informed consent document. Is the research procedure adequately explained? These are some of the issues, that come up when taking the informed consent. Are they all, it is explained? Yes, informed consent occurs in two parts. One is the PIS, that is the participant information sheet, and then the PICF, that is the participant informed consent form. And these PIS and PICF, the informed consent, they are in a simple language, and also local language formats are available. which must match the English original informed consent form. And translations and back translations are also done. Some people also do some test of understanding. Then another issue is, can there be different types of informed consent? Yes, this is a must, traditional written informed consent form, which is generally in 2 copies, one of which is returned, given back to the research participant. Now the ICMR 2000 guidelines have even said that audio-visual consent is mandatory in case of investigation of new drugs. Then pictorial consent is also there. Now there are many, reviews that the study has to undergo throughout the assessing and before it is passed. And it undergoes scrutiny by the scientific review, by the regulatory review, and the ethical committee review. What does the scientific review entail? It explores the novelty of the study, the rationality, the relevance of the study, justification for conducting the study, or it may be a trial, then the merits of the project and feasibility. It includes the inclusion-exclusion criteria, the randomization procedures, the sample size calculation, the endpoint assessment, and all study procedures, and also the follow-up schedule is explored in the scientific review. Next is the regulatory review. What does it include? The regulatory review evaluates the preclinical trial data. It assesses whether all the in-country regulatory requirements for new drug, vaccine, all are covered or not. It ensures the national requirements for special situations like genetically engineered products, the stem cell research, transplant, etc. And nowadays, the intellectual property rights are also issues. So real concern or attention has to be given to sample shipment, transfer of raw data. There are also some restrictions in doing study in some areas, such as exchange of scientists, foreign funding is there in the budget then, or research in border or high security areas. These are certain restricted areas of study which are of ethical and regulatory concern. Now, what is the ethical issues that need to be addressed in the health research? So, ethical committee looks at the competence of the researchers and the team, all the provisions that are covered or not for protection of human rights, especially the vulnerable populations such as women and children, measures for protecting confidentiality, the informed consent appropriateness. Then what are the mechanisms for reporting and management of adverse events and serious adverse events? The care, the supportive treatment that is given to the participant even after the trial is completed. Then reimbursement issues for the time that is lost by the participant and expenses that are paid by the for travel. And these must be in accordance with the budget that is there. It should not be so much so as to unnecessarily induce for induction of participant. It should not be that way. And compensation issues whenever and if there is any harm during the study. And they continue to review the progress of the study. All this is done by Institutional Ethics Committee in India, and also called, which is also called as the Institutional Review Board. It is not in the purview of the Institutional Ethics Committee and IRB to look to sanction the budget or sanction the funding. That is not there in their purview. So what is the main responsibility of IEC or IRB? To see whether the study has real or potential community benefit. Are the rights of the participants adequately protected? What is the benefit versus risk balance associated with the participation of the persons? And whether the research participants and communities will have access to study findings. And the mechanism has to be ensured for safety, for care, and support to the research participant. This all is the responsibility of ethics committee or the IRB also, which we call. Now, when we talk of ethics influencing health research and practice of medicine, there is nowadays growing expectation about accountability. So there is questioning of government responsibility, accountability and responsibility of the researcher or the investigator. There is a growing public awareness due to the advocacy movement for more and more research to be done, because there is now a collective demand for health benefits under the universal right to health for all. So responsibility, lot of responsibility lies on the researcher whenever doing research and to do more research, and responsibility also lies on the participant. So they are also equally responsible, so that they must follow certain expectations during the study. So for all this, it is seen nowadays that there is a need for including bioethics in medical curriculum, which is nowadays more stress is being paid on this. So there is hope that increasingly more and more issues related to ethics in public health and health research will be addressed, and the system, the policy makers and the program managers should show enough sensitivity and realize that there is a scope for further improvement in spite of there being many challenges like public expectations and public demands. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Arpita, madam. So with this, we finish today's session. It was a nice talk, ma'am, and I thank you on behalf of Dr. Chinmay sir and DMER. And I hope that all the participants have enriched their knowledge about all the topics today. All the recordings, YouTube recordings of this is already there in the chat box, from where you can find the YouTube video link, which has lectures of all the 3 days as a whole. And to conclude our BCBR lecture series, tomorrow will be the 4th and last day. So once again, we will join at 3:30 on the same portal. So with this, I thank you all and see you tomorrow. Have a nice day. Once again, thank you, ma'am. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
And bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.